Commander Tejo checked his uniform one last time before the airlock opened. The Galactic Council Station Nexus 7 stretched out before him like a metal mountain floating in space. Today would change everything for humanity. After 300 years of space travel, they were finally meeting other intelligent life forms. The station was huge beyond belief. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at various ports. Some vessels looked like crystal spears. Others resembled giant metal flowers. The human ship looked simple and plain next to these alien crafts. "Remember the briefing," Tejo told his team through their communicators. "We represent all of humanity today. Stay calm and follow protocol." Security Chief Dayun walked beside him, her hand resting near her sidearm. She had served in 3 different planetary conflicts and never showed fear. But today even she seemed nervous. Behind them, xenobiologist Jun Sik carried his scanning equipment, ready to study whatever they might encounter. The station's interior was unlike anything humans had ever built. The walls curved and twisted in impossible ways. Lights shifted colors as they walked past. The air smelled of ozone and something sweet that reminded Tejo of flowers from his childhood on Busan Colony. An alien waited for them in the main corridor. It stood 3 meters tall with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished silver. Its voice came through their translators as a pleasant tenor, though the original sounds were more like musical chimes. "Welcome, representatives of humanity," the translator said. "I am Guide Velnoth. The Council awaits your presence in Chamber 7. The humans followed their guide through corridors filled with beings they had only imagined in stories. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, others floated or rolled. One creature looked like a walking tree with eyes instead of leaves. Another resembled a giant butterfly with metal wings. "The Council has prepared quarters for your delegation," Guide Velnoth said as they walked. "However, we must discuss your request regarding companion units. Our security protocols require detailed information about any artificial intelligences or robotic systems you wish to bring aboard." Tejo smiled. "There seems to be a translation error. These aren't artificial intelligences or robots. They're living companions." The guide stopped walking. Its silver skin rippled with what might have been confusion. "Living companions? Please clarify. Do you mean slaves or servants?" "Neither," Dawun said firmly. "They're friends, partners. They help us and we help them." Guide Velnoth made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "The concept does not translate well. Are these beings part of your military unit? Soldiers under your command?" Junsik adjusted his scanner and spoke carefully. "They're animals. Different species from us, but they live with us by choice. They're not soldiers or servants. They're family." The translator went silent for several seconds, making clicking sounds as it processed this information. Finally, Guide Velnoth continued walking, though its movement seemed more cautious than before. Chamber 7 was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into shadows high above. Representatives from 12 different species sat in a great circle. The air hummed with dozens of different translation devices working at once. At the center of the circle sat War Prime Kethral of the Vextai Empire. The Vextai looked like humans might if they were 3 meters tall and covered in scales that shifted from deep red to black. Kethral's 6 eyes focused on the human delegation as they entered. Beside the War Prime sat Scholar Nethvin of the Quindari Republic. The Quindari had large heads filled with visible brains that pulsed with different colors. Nethvin's brain showed rapid purple flashes that the translators identified as intense curiosity. "So these are the legendary Deathworlders," War Prime Kethral said. His voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. "You're smaller than expected." "We come in peace," Tejo replied, bowing slightly. "Humanity is honored to join the Galactic Council." Scholar Nethvin's brain shifted to bright yellow. "Your species survived on a Class 12 death world. Only 4 other species in known space have achieved this feat. We are most interested in your survival methods and military technologies." "We brought examples of our most important survival tools," Dawun said. "With your permission, we would like to introduce you to our companions." The chamber fell silent. Every alien representative turned their attention to the humans. Some leaned forward with interest. Others moved back with what might have been fear. War Prime Kethral's scales shifted to a darker red. "You wish to bring weapons into the council chamber?" "Not weapons," Tejo said quickly. "Living beings. They're part of our delegation." Scholar Nethvin's brain flashed rapid orange and blue. Living beings that you control? Slave soldiers? Bioweapons? Junsik stepped forward. They're not controlled. They choose to work with us. We've lived together for thousands of years. A creature that looked like a giant spider made of crystal spoke in a voice like breaking glass. The Deathworlders bring symbiotic organisms? This is unprecedented. Are these creatures dangerous? Asked another alien that resembled a floating jellyfish made of metal. Should we prepare medical facilities? Tejo looked at his team, then back at the assembled council. They're completely safe. They're gentle, intelligent, and loyal. They've helped humanity survive on our world and explore space. War Prime Kethril stood, towering over everyone in the chamber. The Vexed I have conquered 17 worlds. We have never encountered a species that willingly serves another without domination or genetic programming. This claim is impossible. With respect, War Prime, Daun said. Maybe that's why you needed to conquer 17 worlds while we've made friends with the species on ours. The chamber erupted in discussion. Translators worked overtime as dozens of species debated in languages that sounded like everything from singing to static electricity. Scholar Nethvin raised a tentacle for silence. When the chamber quieted, the scholar's brain showed steady green pulses. The council will permit these companions to enter. However, we demand full biological scans and behavioral analysis. If these creatures pose any threat, they will be removed immediately. Agreed, Tejo said. But I think you'll find them more surprising than dangerous. Guide Velnoth approached the human delegation. Your companions will be brought to Chamber 7 in 1 standard hour. Please prepare them for examination by our xenobiology teams. As the humans were escorted to their quarters, alien representatives continued their heated discussions. None of them could imagine what kind of creature would willingly work with Deathworlders. Most expected some form of living weapon or genetically modified soldier. They had no idea they were about to meet Earth's dogs. Conference Room Alpha had been redesigned to accommodate both human and alien delegates. The long table stretched across the room with translation devices at every seat. Scholar Nethvin sat surrounded by portable scanning equipment, all of it focused on the 2 dogs lying quietly beside their human companions. The readings are impossible, Nethvin whispered to her research assistant. These creatures show complete genetic divergence from humans, yet their behavioral patterns suggest unprecedented neural synchronization. Bio lay peacefully next to Daun's chair, occasionally looking up at her human with bright, trusting eyes. Hanel sat alert beside Junsik, watching the room with calm intelligence. Both dogs seemed completely comfortable despite being surrounded by alien species that would terrify most Earth creatures. War Prime Kethril studied the dogs with growing confusion. His military training taught him to identify threats and weaknesses. But these small creatures defied every category he understood. They were clearly not weapons, yet the humans had brought them to the most important diplomatic meeting in galactic history. Explain this arrangement, Kethril demanded, his scales shifting to an aggressive orange. You claim these animals are not slaves, yet they obey your commands. You say they are not soldiers, yet they accompany you to military negotiations. What are they? Commander Tejo leaned back in his chair, one hand absently stroking Hanil's head. Their family. The relationship is built on love, trust, and mutual respect. The word love caused several translators to malfunction. The concept existed in most alien languages, only in reference to mating behavior or parental care within the same species. Applying it to a relationship between different species created linguistic chaos. Wu Jin, the cultural attaché, cleared his throat. Perhaps I can explain the history. Dogs evolved from wolves on Earth over 40,000 years ago. Early humans didn't conquer them or domesticate them through force. The relationship developed naturally through mutual benefit. Impossible, stated a mantis-like alien from the Korth Collective. Evolution does not produce such arrangements. Predator species do not voluntarily serve other predators without genetic programming. Junsik activated his portable display, showing images of Earth's wildlife. Actually, cooperative relationships between species are common on our world. Dogs were just the first to form true partnerships with humans. We also work with horses for transportation, cats for pest control, and dozens of other species. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. These humans hadn't simply survived their death world, they had convinced multiple other species to help them survive it. Scholar Nethvin's brain flashed rapid yellow and purple. You mentioned breeding them for specific traits. Are these genetic modifications? Biological weapons designed to appear harmless? Selective breeding, Tejo corrected. Over thousands of years, humans have encouraged dogs with certain traits to reproduce. Some breeds are better at guarding, others at hunting, still others at companionship. War Prime Kethral's combat instincts triggered at the word breeding. In Vextai culture, controlling another species' reproduction was the ultimate act of domination. You admit to genetic manipulation warfare. You control their very evolution? Dayon laughed, surprising everyone in the room. It's not warfare. Look at Bial. She gestured to her golden retriever, who was now lying on her back with her tongue hanging out, begging for belly rubs. Does she look oppressed to you? The sight of Bial in such a vulnerable position, completely trusting and relaxed, sent ripples of confusion through the alien delegates. In their experience, only the most completely dominated slaves would expose themselves so completely to their masters. The creature shows submission behaviors, observed the crystalline spider being. Yet its biochemical readings indicate contentment, not fear. Wu Jin stood and walked to the center of the room. Let me demonstrate something. He pulled a small rubber ball from his pocket and held it up. Immediately, both dogs perked up with interest, their tails beginning to wag. Watch closely, Wu Jin said, then threw the ball across the room. Hanel immediately jumped up and chased after it, catching the ball before it hit the ground. The dog then turned and ran back to Wu Jin, dropping the ball at his feet and sitting expectantly. The alien delegates watched in stunned silence. The dog had voluntarily retrieved an object and returned it without any command or reward. The behavior made no sense from an evolutionary standpoint. Why did it return the object? Asked the jellyfish-like delegate. What purpose does this serve? It's a game, Junsik explained. Dogs enjoy playing fetch. It's fun for them and it strengthens their bond with humans. Fun, Scholar Nethvin repeated, her brain flashing confused orange. An activity that serves no survival purpose, yet the creature actively seeks to repeat it. Not everything has to serve survival, Da-Un said gently. Sometimes things are valuable just because they bring joy. This concept proved even more difficult for the aliens to grasp than the interspecies friendship. Most galactic civilizations were built around efficiency and survival optimization. The idea of wasting energy on activities that served no practical purpose was almost incomprehensible. A commotion in the corridor interrupted the discussion. The door opened and a human in a different uniform entered, accompanied by a larger dog with black and tan fur. The newcomer was Minho, a search and rescue specialist, and his partner was Nari, a German shepherd. Sorry I'm late, Minho said, taking an empty seat. Nari needed some time to adjust to the different air mixture on the station. Nari, unlike the other two dogs, moved with obvious purpose. She sniffed the air carefully, then walked around the perimeter of the room. Suddenly, she stopped near a wall panel and sat down, looking directly at Minho and giving a sharp bark. What is it, girl? Minho asked, immediately alert. He stood and examined the wall where Nari had indicated. There's nothing there, War Prime Kethral said dismissively. Your creature is malfunctioning. But Minho was already activating his scanner. Within seconds, the device began beeping rapidly. Gas leak, he announced. Small but dangerous. The station's sensors haven't detected it yet. Emergency alarms began blaring throughout the station as Minho's report was confirmed. Maintenance crews rushed to repair the leak that could have poisoned everyone in the room within hours. The alien delegates stared at Nari with new respect and growing alarm. This creature had detected a threat that their advanced technology had missed. How was that possible? Her nose is millions of times more sensitive than your electronic sensors, Junsik explained proudly. Dogs can detect chemical traces at parts per trillion. They can smell diseases, explosives, drugs, and apparently gas leaks that your equipment misses. Scholar Nethvin's brain exploded into rapid flashing colors. You're saying these creatures possess sensory capabilities superior to our technology? In some areas, yes, Tejo confirmed. Dogs can track scents across vast distances, detect seizures before they happen, and sense emotional changes in humans. They're not just companions. They're partners who make us better than we could ever be alone. The revelation that these small, friendly animals possessed abilities that surpassed galactic technology sent shockwaves through the assembled delegates. They had come expecting to meet humanity's weapons and found something far more unsettling. Proof that Deathworlders had created genuine partnerships with other species. War Prime Kethril looked at the three dogs with new understanding. These creatures choose to use their superior abilities to help humans? Every day, Daun said simply, scratching Biol behind the ears. And we try to be worthy of their trust. The concept was so foreign to galactic civilization that several delegates excused themselves from the meeting to report back to their governments. The humans weren't just Deathworld survivors. They were something entirely new in the galaxy. They were a species that had learned to share power instead of hoarding it, creating partnerships instead of conquering subjects, and that made them more dangerous than any weapon the Council had ever imagined. Docking Bay 12 buzzed with activity as alien security teams prepared for the arrival of humanity's mysterious companions. War Prime Kethril had sent his best warriors, Zethmor and Vixtal, to observe these so-called living weapons. Both Vextai soldiers stood ready with energy rifles charged and shields activated. Remember, Zethmor told his partner, Deathworlders are unpredictable. Their companion units might be designed to look harmless before attacking. Vixtal nodded, her scales shifting to a cautious dark green. Intelligence reports say humans survived their world by taming its most dangerous predators. These creatures could be anything. Scholar Nethvin had positioned an entire team of Quindari scientists around the docking bay. Their scanning equipment hummed and beeped as they calibrated sensors to detect everything from toxic gases to electromagnetic pulses. The scholars expected to study some form of biological weapon or cybernetic organism. Fascinating, Nethvin said to her research assistant. The energy signatures from the human transport are unlike anything in our databases. These companion units generate unique biological readings. The transport ship landed with a soft thud. It was smaller than expected, with a simple design that looked more like a cargo vessel than a military craft. Steam hissed from the landing gear as the ship settled on the docking bay floor. Commander Tejo's voice came through the communication system. Nexus 7 Control, requesting permission to disembark with companion units. All safety protocols have been followed. Permission granted, came the reply from the station's control center. Security teams are standing by. The airlock opened with a mechanical whine. Every alien in the docking bay tensed, ready for whatever might emerge. Weapons powered up, shields strengthened, and scanners focused on the dark opening of the human ship. Commander Tejo stepped out first, wearing a simple uniform without any visible weapons. Behind him came Security Chief Daun and xenobiologist Junsik. The three humans looked calm and relaxed, completely different from what the aliens expected of legendary Deathworld survivors. Then the companions appeared. A golden-colored quadruped bounded out of the ship beside Daun, its tail moving rapidly back and forth. Its tongue hung out of its mouth as it looked around the docking bay with bright, curious eyes. The creature was covered in fur and stood about knee-high to the humans. By all, stay close, Daun said gently, placing her hand on the creature's head. Behind them, another four-legged animal walked calmly next to Junsik. This one had black and white fur with alert, intelligent eyes. It moved with purpose, scanning the environment while staying perfectly in step with the human scientist. Good boy. Hanel, Junsik said, offering the creature a small treat from his pocket. Every alien in the docking bay stood frozen. These were the fearsome companion units? These small, fur-covered animals that wagged their tails and looked around with what could only be described as friendliness? Zethmor slowly lowered his weapon, his scales rippling with confusion. Is this some kind of test? Where are their real companions? Vixtal kept her rifle raised but stepped closer to get a better look. They're so small. How could creatures this size help Deathworlders survive? The Quindari scanners went wild with readings. Scholar Nethvin's brain flashed rapid purple and yellow as she tried to process the information. Impossible, she whispered. These creatures share no genetic material with humans. They're completely separate species. The golden-furred creature Biol noticed all the aliens staring and tilted her head to one side. Her tail wagged faster and she made a soft whining sound as if asking why everyone was so serious. It's okay, girl, Daun said, scratching behind Biol's ears. They're just surprised to meet you. This simple gesture caused another wave of confusion among the observers. The human was showing affection to a completely different species. In their experience, such behavior only occurred between parents and offspring, or between mated pairs within the same species. Junsik's companion, Hanul, sat down and looked directly at War Prime Kethril. The dog's expression was calm and intelligent, showing no fear of the large-scaled warrior. Instead, Hanil seemed curious about this new type of being. "Why is it looking at me?" Kethril demanded, taking a step backward. "Is it preparing to attack?" "He's just interested in meeting you," Junsik explained. "Dogs are naturally curious about new people and situations." "Dogs?" Scholar Nethvin's research assistant asked. "Is that the species designation?" Teho nodded. "Canis familiaris. They've lived with humans for over 15,000 years. We call them our best friends." The concept of friendship between species was so alien to the council members that their translators struggled to find equivalent terms. Most alien languages had words for dominance, submission, symbiosis, or parasitism, but the idea of genuine friendship across species lines didn't exist in their cultures. A small crowd of other alien delegates had gathered to observe the newcomers. They whispered among themselves in dozens of different languages, their translators working overtime to keep up with the discussions. "The small one is showing submission postures," observed a crystalline spider creature. "See how it lowers its front end and raises its rear section." But as they watched, Biol wasn't showing submission at all. She had gone into what humans called a playbow, inviting anyone who wanted to engage in a game. When no one responded, she picked up a small ball that had fallen from Daun's equipment bag and dropped it at the feet of the nearest alien. The alien, a floating jellyfish-like being, recoiled in shock. "It's offering me something. Is this a peace treaty?" "A challenge." Daun laughed softly. "She wants to play fetch. It's a game where you throw the ball and she brings it back." "But why would it bring the object back?" asked the jellyfish alien. "What does it gain from this activity?" "Fun," Junsik said simply. "Joy. The pleasure of playing together." This answer created even more confusion. The concept of doing something purely for enjoyment, without any survival advantage or material gain, was difficult for many alien species to understand. Hanul, meanwhile, had approached Scholar Nethvin's scanning equipment. The dog sniffed at the devices with professional interest, then sat politely a safe distance away, waiting to see what would happen next. "Remarkable," Nethvin muttered, studying her readings. "The creature shows no signs of genetic modification, cybernetic enhancement, or chemical conditioning. Its brain patterns indicate high intelligence and emotional complexity, but it's completely natural." War Prime Kethril finally found his voice. "These animals serve you willingly, without compulsion or programming?" "They're not our servants," Teho explained. "They're our partners. We help each other survive and thrive. Humans provide food, shelter, and medical care. Dogs provide companionship, protection, and assistance with various tasks. Mutual benefit," Scholar Nethvin said, her brain flashing bright blue with understanding. "But the proportions are wrong. The humans provide much more than the dogs. This is an inefficient arrangement." Daun knelt down and hugged Biol, who responded by licking her face and wagging her tail even faster. "You can't measure everything by efficiency," she said. "Some things are valuable just because they make life better." The assembled aliens watched this display of cross-species affection with growing amazement. In all their explorations of the galaxy, they had never encountered anything like it. Two completely different species, sharing genuine care and friendship without any form of domination or control. As the humans and their canine companions prepared to leave the docking bay, the alien observers remained frozen in place, trying to process what they had witnessed. The legendary Deathworlders hadn't brought weapons or war machines, they had brought friends. The station's artificial night cycle had begun, dimming the lights throughout Nexus 7. Most of the alien delegates had returned to their quarters to process what they had witnessed, but a few remained in the observation lounges, unable to sleep. Velthar, a young Vextai warrior, pressed his scaled face against the transparent aluminum window of Lounge 7. Through the barrier, he could see into the human quarters where Commander Teho sat quietly reading from a data tablet. Beside him lay Bomb, a mixed-breed dog with brown and white fur who had arrived with the second transport earlier that day. Neither the human nor the dog was doing anything remarkable. Teho read silently while Bomb dozed contentedly against his leg. Yet Velthar found himself unable to look away from this simple scene. "You have been watching for 2 hours," observed Kethril, approaching his subordinate with concern. "What tactical intelligence are you gathering?" "I don't understand it," Velthar admitted. "The human shows no signs of alertness or aggression. The creature is completely vulnerable to attack, yet both appear peaceful. War Prime Kethrel joined his warrior at the window. In Vextai culture, such relaxation was only possible when surrounded by proven allies or when demonstrating absolute dominance. But the human and dog showed neither relationship pattern. Perhaps the creature is drugged, Kethrel suggested. Chemical control would explain its compliance. Scholar Nethvin's scans show no foreign substances, Velthar replied. The creature's biochemistry indicates genuine contentment, not artificial sedation. In another section of the station, Scholar Nethvin herself was experiencing similar confusion. She had spent hours analyzing the data from her encounters with the human-dog partnerships, and every conclusion violated established principles of evolutionary biology. Her research assistant, a junior scholar named Kethvi, approached with the latest analysis results. The neural activity patterns are consistent, Kethvi reported. These creatures show genuine affection responses when interacting with humans. The emotional centers of their brains activate in ways we previously thought impossible between separate species. Show me the comparative data, Nethvin requested, her brain flashing rapid yellow with concentration. The holographic display showed brain scans from both humans and dogs during their interactions. When Daun petted Biol, both species showed increased activity in areas associated with pleasure, bonding, and stress reduction. The chemical releases are symmetrical, Kethvi continued. Both species produce compounds associated with pair bonding and social attachment. It's as if they have evolved to form genuine emotional connections with each other. Nethvin studied the data with growing amazement. But this is impossible. Evolution doesn't produce such arrangements. Species compete for resources, they don't voluntarily share them with genetic outsiders. Unless, Kethvi said hesitantly, the arrangement provides advantages that outweigh the costs for both species. The breakthrough came at the junction of corridors 12 and 15, where several delegates had gathered to observe something unexpected. Sora, the human engineer, was sitting on the floor with Dal, a medium-sized dog with gentle brown eyes and a calm demeanor. Dal was what humans called a therapy dog, specially trained to provide emotional support. Sora had been working double shifts to accommodate the alien delegation's technical requirements, and the stress was beginning to show. She looked exhausted and worried. As the aliens watched, Dal seemed to sense Sora's emotional state without any obvious communication. The dog moved closer and rested his head on her lap, looking up at her with understanding eyes. Sora's tense shoulders relaxed as she stroked Dal's fur and her breathing became slower and more regular. Remarkable, whispered a crystalline spider delegate. The creature is providing psychological support without any apparent reward or command. But the most significant observation came from an unexpected source. A young Quindari scientist named Fexran had been analyzing the chemical traces that dogs left throughout the station. What she discovered changed everything. Scholar Nethvin, Fexran called out excitedly through her communication device. You must see this data immediately. The elder scholar arrived within minutes to find Fexran surrounded by chemical analysis equipment and holographic displays showing complex molecular structures. The dog scent patterns aren't random, Fexran explained breathlessly. They're deliberately marking territory, but not in the way we expected. Look at this. The holographic display showed a three-dimensional map of the station with chemical traces marked in different colors. Instead of claiming territory for themselves or their humans, the dogs had marked areas as safe zones for all species present. They're creating a communication network, Nethvin realized, her brain flashing bright blue with understanding. The chemical markers indicate safe, friend, and protected area in a language that transcends species barriers. More than that, Fexran continued. The patterns show that dogs are actively monitoring the emotional states of every being on the station, not just humans. When Delegate Zorthnal showed signs of stress yesterday, Hanil immediately moved to a position where he could observe and, if necessary, alert the humans to potential problems. The implications were staggering. The dogs weren't just human companions. They were functioning as an early warning system and peacekeeping force for the entire multi-species gathering. They're protecting all of us, Nethvin whispered. Without being asked, without being trained for our specific species, they're extending their partnership behavior to include everyone they perceive as part of their human social group. Word of this discovery spread quickly through the alien delegation. Within hours, Representatives from every species were requesting private briefings on the dog behavior analysis. The questions were always the same. How do they do it? Can this behavior be replicated? What does this mean for galactic civilization? The answer came during an impromptu gathering in the main conference room. Commander Tejo sat with his team and their canine partners, surrounded by alien delegates who were finally ready to ask the real questions. "Your world," began War Prime Kethral slowly. "It nearly killed you, didn't it?" Tejo nodded. "Earth is a Class 12 death world. Extreme weather, dangerous predators, toxic plants, deadly diseases, natural disasters. For most of human history, survival was a constant struggle. So how did you not just survive but thrive?" asked Scholar Nethvin. "How did your species become spacefaring instead of extinct?" Junsik smiled and gestured to Hanul, who was lying peacefully between the human and Vextai delegations. "We learned that we were stronger together than apart. Not just humans with other humans, but humans with other species. Dogs helped us hunt and protected our settlements. Horses carried us across vast distances. Cats controlled the pests that would have destroyed our food supplies. But the costs," protested a mantis-like delegate. "You share your resources, your living spaces, your very lives with creatures that contribute nothing to your technology or industry. They contribute something more valuable than technology," Daun said gently, scratching Biol behind the ears. "They contribute loyalty, love, and the kind of partnership that makes life worth living." War Prime Kethral looked around the room at his warriors and scientists, all of whom were watching the human-dog interactions with fascination rather than fear. For the first time since the Vextai had begun their conquests, he wondered if there might be a better way to relate to other species. "This partnership model," he said carefully, "could it work between different intelligent species?" "It works right here, right now," Tejo replied. "Your people are learning to trust ours. Our dogs are protecting your delegates. We're all sharing the same space, the same air, the same goal of peaceful coexistence." Scholar Nethavin's brain flashed rapidly through multiple colors before settling on a steady, bright gold. "We came here expecting to evaluate human military capabilities," she said. "Instead, we've discovered something far more powerful than weapons." "What's that?" asked Sora, looking up from where she sat with Dal. "Hope," Nethvin replied. "For the first time in galactic history, we've seen proof that different species can choose cooperation over domination, partnership over conquest." As the late shift cycle continued, aliens throughout the station found themselves observing human-dog interactions with new understanding. These weren't master-slave relationships or predator-prey dynamics. They were something entirely new in the galaxy. Genuine friendships between species, built on mutual respect and shared affection. And if it could work between humans and dogs, perhaps it could work between any species willing to try. The station's gymnasium had been hastily converted into a demonstration area. Alien delegates from 12 species gathered in tiered seating that curved around the central floor. Translation devices hummed constantly as excited conversations filled the air in dozens of languages. War Prime Kethral sat in the front row with his elite warriors, still struggling to understand what they had witnessed in the conference room. Scholar Nethvin had positioned her entire research team along the sides, their scanning equipment aimed at the demonstration area like weapons preparing for battle. "The Council requests proof of your claims about these companion units," announced Guide Velnoth from the station's central podium. "Our members find it difficult to believe that separate species can form genuine cooperative bonds without dominant structures, Commander." Tejo stood in the center of the gymnasium with Daun and Junsik beside him. Biol and Hanil sat calmly at their feet, looking around at the assembled aliens with curious but unafraid eyes. "What would you like to see?" Tejo asked. "Demonstrate your control methods," War Prime Kethral demanded. "Show us how you command these creatures to obey your will." Daun smiled and knelt down next to Biol. "Ready to show off, girl?" she asked in a warm voice. Biol's tail wagged frantically and she bounced on her front paws, clearly excited. "Sit," Daun said in a normal-speaking voice. Biol immediately sat, her attention focused completely on Dayun's face. "Stay," Dayun continued, then stood up and walked several meters away. Biol remained perfectly still, though her entire body quivered with the effort of controlling her excitement. Her eyes never left Daun's face, waiting for the next instruction. "Come," Daun called. Biol launched herself across the space between them, sliding to a perfect stop right at Dayun's feet, then sitting automatically. The alien observers watched in stunned silence. They had seen no threats, no pain responses, no fear reactions. The creature had followed complex instructions delivered in a gentle tone and seemed to enjoy every moment of it. "Where are the control devices?" asked a delegate who looked like a walking crystal formation. "We detect no electromagnetic signals, no chemical stimuli, no neural interface connections." "There aren't any," Junsik said, stepping forward with Hanul. "Watch this." Junsik didn't say anything at all. Instead, he simply pointed to a spot about 10 meters away. Hanel looked where he was pointing, then looked back at Junsik's face. The human nodded slightly, and Hanul immediately trotted to the indicated spot and lay down. "Telepathic control," whispered Scholar Nethvin, her brain flashing rapid purple. "The humans have developed psychic abilities." "Not telepathy," Junsik laughed. "Body language. Dogs are experts at reading human gestures and facial expressions. Hanel understands what I want based on subtle visual cues." A jellyfish-like delegate floated closer to the demonstration area. "But why does the creature choose to comply? What prevents it from simply ignoring your gestures?" "Because we're partners," Dayun explained. "Dogs want to work with us. It makes them happy to understand what we need and help us achieve it." This statement caused another wave of confused discussion among the aliens. The concept that a creature would voluntarily subordinate its immediate desires to help another species achieve goals was unprecedented in galactic civilization. "Prove it," War Prime Kethril challenged. "Command the creature to do something that goes against its natural instincts." Before the humans could respond, the gymnasium doors opened and Minho entered with Nari and another human wearing different clothing. The newcomer was Sora, a station engineer who had volunteered to help with the demonstration. "Perfect timing," Tejo said. "Minho, would you mind showing them what Nari can do?" Minho nodded and pulled a small cloth bag from his pocket. Inside were several items, a piece of fabric, a metal tool, and a food container. He let Nari sniff each item carefully, then sealed them back in the bag. "Sora is going to hide somewhere in the gymnasium," Minho announced. "She'll take one of these items with her. Nari will find her by following the scent trail." The alien delegates watched with growing interest as Sora selected the metal tool and disappeared into the complex maze of equipment and seating that filled the gymnasium. She had dozens of possible hiding places among the alien observation stations and converted exercise equipment. Minho waited exactly 5 minutes, then knelt beside Nari. "Find Sora," he said simply, showing her the cloth bag again. Nari's entire demeanor changed instantly. Her head went down and she began moving methodically across the gymnasium floor, her nose working constantly. She wasn't distracted by the dozens of alien scents or the strange environment. Her focus was absolute and professional. The dog traced a complex path through the seating area, past confused alien delegates around scanning equipment, and finally to a storage compartment behind the main observation deck. She sat down and barked once. "Found her," Minho called out. Sora emerged from the storage compartment, holding up the metal tool. "She's right. I've been here for the last 3 minutes. Scholar Nethavin's research team was frantically checking their equipment. "Impossible," one of them called out. "Our chemical sensors detected no trace of the human's passage through that area." "Dog noses work differently than your sensors," Junsik explained. "They don't just detect chemicals. They can track how those chemicals change over time." Nari followed Sora's scent trail like reading a map. "But the creature could have simply wandered around until it found the hidden human by accident," argued a mantis-like delegate. "This proves nothing about genuine cooperation." Minho smiled and pulled out a more complex piece of equipment. "Let's make it harder then." He showed the aliens a device that looked like a small electronic tablet. "This is a scent discrimination trainer. It can produce dozens of different chemical signatures." He activated the device and let Nari sniff it. Then he handed identical devices to 3 different alien delegates in opposite corners of the gymnasium. Each device is programmed with a different scent pattern. Only one matches what Nari just smelled. The other 2 are completely different chemicals that might smell similar to us, but not to her. The aliens activated their devices simultaneously, the gymnasium filled with various chemical odors that made some of the delegates uncomfortable. But Nari was already moving, checking each location systematically. She approached the first device, carried by a crystalline spider creature, and sniffed carefully. Then she moved to the second device with the jellyfish-like delegate. Finally, she went to the third device in the hands of a reptilian alien who looked similar to Warprime Ketharal. At the third location, Nari sat down and looked directly at Minho, giving a single sharp bark. Correct, Minho confirmed, checking his control device. Number 3 was the matching scent. The alien holding the device stepped backward in shock. The creature identified the correct chemical signature, despite interference from dozens of other odors and the presence of unfamiliar life forms. That's just a basic search exercise for her, Minho said proudly, scratching Nari behind the ears. She could track a specific person through a crowded city or find a lost child in a forest. Dogs have been helping humans with search and rescue operations for centuries. Warprime Ketharal stood up slowly, his scales shifting to a thoughtful blue-green color. This creature possesses tactical intelligence. It can identify targets, track enemies, and navigate complex environments. Why does it use these abilities to serve humans instead of its own kind? Because humans and dogs are stronger together than either species is alone, Doan said simply. We provide tools, training, and care. They provide abilities we don't have. It's not servitude, it's partnership. Scholar Nethvin's brain was flashing so rapidly it looked like a disco light. The military applications are obvious, she said. A force of humans supported by creatures with these sensory capabilities would be nearly impossible to defeat through conventional stealth tactics. We don't use dogs for warfare, Tejo said firmly. They help us save lives, not take them. Search and rescue, medical detection, disaster response. Dogs make us better protectors, not better killers. This statement caused the biggest reaction yet from the alien delegates. A species that possessed superior military capabilities but chose not to use them for conquest? The concept was so foreign to galactic civilization that several representatives immediately began transmitting reports to their home governments. As the demonstration ended and the aliens filed out of the gymnasium, their conversations were filled with words like unprecedented, impossible, and dangerous. They had come expecting to evaluate humanity's military potential, and instead discovered something far more unsettling. The Deathworlders weren't just survivors, they were revolutionaries who had developed an entirely new model for how intelligent species could relate to each other, and that revolution might change the entire galaxy.